I generally always understood that life is an amazing thing and you can expect anything, but the fact that my wife would cheat on me with her colleague was the last thing I could think about. But the point is not even that, but how and under what circumstances I found myself in such a situation. Enjoy watching. I couldn't fathom what lay before my eyes. Johnny, my wife of 7 years, was engaged in an intimate encounter with Jim on a table in the dining car. I scanned the surroundings, half expecting to find an attendant or waiter, but strangely, there was none. In that moment, any love I harbored for my wife crumbled. This was meant to be a joyful outing for us to reconnect, and I was taken aback when she mentioned Jim, a co-worker she claimed was a friend to both of us. However, I never warmed up to him and couldn't fathom why he insisted on joining us until now. Realizing that our marriage was over, I knew I needed evidence for the impending divorce. While the sight of them engaging in intimate activities stirred some conflicted emotions, I refused to tolerate such blatant disrespect. I pulled out my cell phone and started recording their liaison, not interested in witnessing or hearing their explanations. It felt like they went on for an eternity on that table, and I was appalled by Jin's rough treatment of her, even though she appeared to enjoy it. Perhaps I should have been more forceful, but that wasn't my nature. Eventually, they ceased their actions, and Johnny fixed her dress before handing Jim her panties, the alluring ones I believe she had bought for me. He grinned and brought them up to his face, savoring her scent. "We need to be cautious," she whispered as they settled into their seats. "If George discovers our secret, he'll be furious." "Oh, forget about that weakling," Jim scoffed. "We've been involved for a year and he hasn't caught on." A year, I pondered silently. I knew things had been strained between Johnny and me given my hectic work schedule, but it was crucial for maintaining our lifestyle. While Johnny also worked, her income mostly went towards her personal desires, clothes, accessories, salon visits, and the like. The plan was to take a few days off, travel by rail, explore, and spend quality time together. So Jim continued, "Are you going to make him deal with the consequences when you return to him?" "That would be quite wicked, wouldn't it?" She mused. "Did you follow my advice about birth control?" he inquired. Johnny nodded. "Yeah," she admitted. "I stopped taking it so you could get me pregnant. I told George I was on my period this week, so he won't be expecting any intimacy." They both shared a laugh. "Why do you stay with him then?" Jim questioned. "You obviously don't love him if you're doing this." "It's not that I don't love him," she clarified. "I like him, but that intense love isn't there anymore. Besides, he brings in a decent paycheck, and you know I couldn't survive on my income alone. So it's about the money," he concluded. She nodded. "Pretty much," she admitted. "I could never afford the accommodations he arranged for this trip, and neither could you. So when you want to meet again?" he asked. "I'm not sure. Maybe later tonight after he goes to sleep," she replied. George had seen and heard enough, deciding to stop the video. He headed back to the sleeper car where he and Johnny were staying, contemplating his next steps. Divorce was inevitable, but there had to be more consequences. Both she and her despicable boyfriend needed to face the consequences. George retrieved his phone and searched his contacts for his lawyer's number. "Fred Jurgens," the man answered when he called. "Fred, it's George. I need you to start preparing divorce papers for me, and I wanted the prenuptial agreement enforced." George requested. "Divorce?" Fred asked, surprised. "Are you sure about this?" "I've never been more certain in my life," George affirmed. "On what grounds?" Fred inquired. "Adultery," George stated. "I have a video I can send you for proof." "Sure, send that over," Fred responded. "I have the prenup here, so setting it up shouldn't take too long." "When do you want her served?" "The sooner the better," George replied. "We'll be back in Springfield in a couple of days, so maybe you can have her served at the train station. I also need information about her boyfriend, Jim Simpson. He works with her. I'll assign our investigator to it," Fred assured. "Send me the video, and I'll review it. And please don't do anything foolish, understand?" "Yeah, right," George chuckled. "You know me." "Yeah, I do," Fred chuckled. "That's why I said not to do anything foolish." After ending the call, George sent Fred the video and took a moment to consider his next moves. I retrieved my tablet and linked it to my phone. After transferring the video to the tablet, I activated the phone's hotspot and utilized it to connect the tablet to our home network, via a VPN or virtual private network. I had set up the VPN some time ago to securely access my files from any location worldwide. Initially, I logged into our banking system and performed the usual routine, closing joint cards, reallocating funds, and the like. I wanted to eliminate any potential risks, even with the existence of a prenuptial agreement. Another idea crossed my mind. Joni frequently used the home computer for her personal emails, and luckily, she wasn't particularly savvy about security matters. Consequently, I easily gained access to her webmail account with just a few clicks. I transferred the video first to the tablet and then to the home computer. With her webmail client open, I composed an email attempting to mimic her writing style. Employing a somewhat cliché subject line in her tone, I wrote, "Check out my fun train trip." In the body of the email, I added, "See what I do while my unsuspecting hubby sleeps." Subsequently, I attached the video to the email and dispatched it to everyone on our contact list. That's correct. Friends, family, co-workers, you name it. After reviewing it for a moment, I decided to go for it and clicked send. Screw it, I thought to myself. Just in the nick of time, I swung open the door to our compartment and caught the attention of one of the attendants. I signaled for him to approach when he glanced up at me. "Is everything okay, sir?" he inquired. "Well, my wife wants to switch to another cabin," I explained. "Can you tell me which cabin Jim Simpson is in?" The attendant consulted his tablet briefly before responding. "Do you want your wife's belongings moved to that cabin?" he questioned. "Are you sure? It's in the economy class, and not nearly as comfortable as this one." "That's life," I replied. He nodded in understanding. "I see," he said. "Certainly I'll assist in packing up her things." We moved quickly, not paying much attention to how neatly her clothes were packed. After we finished, I helped the attendant transport her belongings to his cabin, which was significantly smaller than ours. I chuckled as I casually tossed her things onto his modest bunk bed. "Let her deal with that," I thought to myself. "I'll need to create a new key card for her," he mentioned, pulling a white card from his pocket and swiping it through a magnetic writer connected to his tablet. He looked at me once he finished. "Do you know where she is?" he asked. I nodded. "I know where she was the last time I saw her," I replied. "Lead the way," he said. We navigated through the train and entered the dining car. Johnny and Jim were still exchanging affectionate looks when we approached them. I took a seat at the table, and the attendant got Johnny's attention. "Yes?" she asked, appearing annoyed. He mentioned, "I need to provide you with your new key card," and added, "as well as collect the old one," she said, looking taken aback. "What do you mean?" she inquired. "It seems there was a mix-up in cab assignments, so I must hand you your new key," he explained calmly. I thought to myself, this guy remains composed no matter what. Annoyed, Joni retrieved her key card and handed it to the attendant. He grinned and handed her the replacement card. "Thank you. Have a pleasant trip," he said, turning away. Joni shot me an angry look. "What on earth are you doing?" she demanded. "I'm just facilitating things for you and Jim to have some fun," I replied. Her eyes widened. "Things for you and Jim to have some fun," I replied. Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" she asked. "You think I'm unaware of what's going on between the two of you?" I questioned. Joni began to look uneasy, glancing at Jim, who seemed perturbed. He examined her key card and noticed the cabin number. "Wait a minute," he exclaimed. "That's a key to my cabin," I nodded. "I thought this way you two wouldn't have to engage in intimate activities on the dining room table," I remarked. "I understand it might be a bit cramped, but that's how it goes. By the way, did Joni ever mention the prenup she signed when we got married?" "What are you talking about?" Jim inquired. "Well, if you're going to engage in relations with someone's spouse, it might be wise to learn a bit about her first, don't you think?" I suggested. "Look, it was all in good fun," he claimed. "We didn't mean anything by it." Joni chimed in. "That's correct, George," she said. "It was all just for fun. It doesn't impact our marriage at all." "Really?" I queried, pulling out my tablet. I fast-forwarded the video to the part where they were talking and pressed play. "Listen to this," I said. "I have a certain level of fondness for him, but the intense love I once felt is no longer there. Plus, he brings in a substantial income, and you know I can't sustain my lifestyle with my own earnings." Joni's voice explained in the video. "So if you're sticking around for the money," Jim commented in the video. She nodded affirmatively. I paused the video and confronted her. So I'm just a source of income for you, I said. Darling, she began, but I interrupted her. You don't have the privilege of calling me darling, dear honey, or anything else, I stated. I don't think you should even use my first name. It would be more appropriate to address me as Mr. Duvalier. And since you don't consider yourself married to me, I'll be taking these. I continued, removing her wedding and engagement rings. And I'll be taking this, I added, grabbing her purse and extracting her house key from the large key ring she kept there. I removed my wedding ring and placed it in front of Jim, stating, you can have this. I no longer have any use for it. Turning to Jim, I explained. According to the prenup she signed, Jim, in cases of infidelity, the guilty party, Joni, in this instance, receives nothing. She can keep her clothes and jewelry, but that's it. I doubt she'll manage to keep up with car payments. Luckily, I had the paperwork in her name, so her credit will take the hit. You despicable bastard, he uttered, attempting to stand. I seized a fork and moved threateningly towards his hand, prompting him to sit back down. Don't mess with me, jerk, I warned. Please, Joni pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. Gio, Mr. Duvalier, please reconsider. I've learned my lesson. Can't you forgive me, and we can move past this? No, you wretched woman, I said, rewinding a video to the point where they discussed Joni's deception. Playing it for both of them, I hissed at Joni. For a year, you two have been deceiving me. You schemed to get pregnant by Jim and pass the child off as mine. Right now, I despise you, and I wish I had never met you. Turning to Jim, I added, you wanted the lying, cheating woman. You got her. Good luck. I doubt she'll find much support from her family and friends. What do you mean? Joni asked. I shrugged. Check your email, I instructed. She grabbed her phone and opened her email app, her eyes widening. What have you done? She exclaimed. I just shared your memories with your family and friends, I replied. Since you seem to enjoy yourself so much, I thought you'd love to share it with others. You monster, she hissed. My parents disowned me. My sister never wants to see me again, and my friends now think I'm a two-bit slut. They'd all hate me. Do they deserve blame? I inquired calmly. I devoted 7 of my prime years to you, loving only you and never entertaining thoughts of another woman. I worked tirelessly for you, purchasing the extravagant house you insisted on and buying you that new BMW. I never complained when you spent your money on yourself or when you claimed to be out with the girls. And what did I get in return? You shattered my heart, betrayed me, and destroyed our marriage. I don't blame them at all. Please just give me another chance, she pleaded. I shook my head. No, I responded. You could have put an end to this at any point, but you chose not to. This is the end of the road. You made your bed. Now lie in it. I hope it was all worth it to you. I expect you'll be served when we reach Springfield. Just sign the papers and be done with it. Then you and Jim can do whatever you please for all I care. Gio, Mr. Duvalier, she said. Is there anything I can do to make this up to you? I'll do anything. I stood up and took a moment to think before replying. Yeah, I said. There is one thing, actually 2 things. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation. Eat shit and die. She collapsed in tears as I turned and walked away. Suppressing my own tears, I made my way back to my cabin. After closing and locking the door, my phone rang. It was her parents. Apparently, they had seen the video I sent them. George, what the hell is going on? Joni's father, Cliff, asked. Hi, Cliff, I said. I caught your daughter having sex with another man. I recorded it and sent it to you. I'm having divorce papers drawn up based on the prenuptial agreement. I anticipate she'll be served when the train reaches Springfield. I wanted you to know the reason for our divorce. Isn't there any way you can overlook this? He asked. I mean, divorce is so drastic. No, Cliff, I replied. If you listen to what your daughter and her lover said, you'll understand that I can't move past her infidelity. I'm nothing more than a paycheck to her. She even wanted me to raise another man's child. That foolish girl, he remarked. I've heard that you disowned her, I mentioned. No, he replied. I requested her to provide me with one valid reason not to disown her. I'm still waiting. Well, for what it's worth, I'm thankful that you had us sign that prenup, I remarked. This may not be the way you envisioned things unfolding, but you did me a great favor. I'm sorry, George, he expressed. You're right, and I've come to love you like the son I never had. I have a great deal of respect for you as well, I responded. Is there anything we can do? He inquired. As a matter of fact, there is, I replied. Do you still have that spare key to the house I gave you? Yes, we do, he confirmed. Would you mind getting a truck and collecting her belongings from the house? I asked. I won't be in town for another couple of days and I don't want her in the house. I'll reimburse you for the truck. Sure, we can do that, he agreed. What about her car? You can take that as well, but I'm not sure how long she'll be able to keep it, I said. Maybe you can help her with budgeting, or she can trade it in for something more affordable. Okay, he said. Look, George, I'm really sorry about all this. Not your fault, I assured him. We exchanged our goodbyes and ended the call. The phone rang the moment I put it in my pocket. It was Joni's cousin, Lisa. I answered the call. Put it in my pocket. It was Joni's cousin, Lisa. I answered the call. What do you want, Lisa? I inquired. So you finally know about Joni, she asked. Yeah, I confirmed. I take it you're going to divorce the no-good bitch, she asked. Sure, I replied. I've already got some plans in motion. Good, she said. You know, I've always been attracted to you. The truth was I found Lisa very attractive too. However, being married to her cousin made her strictly off limits. Well, you're quite attractive yourself, I responded. Lisa had a habit of wearing short skirts and tiny ripped shorts around me, always managing to stir up excitement. Shorts around me, always managing to stir up excitement. So you have noticed, she remarked. Of course, I assured her. Now that you've separated from your spouse, do you think we could get together? She inquired. Maybe once the divorce is finalized, I suggested. Okay, I understand, she said. I've waited 7 years for you, so a few more months won't hurt. Then I'm going to satisfy your desires completely. I'll see you when you return. The call concluded, leaving me aroused. Perhaps something positive would come out of all this in the end. The following couple of days passed quickly for me, mainly occupied with phone calls. I seldom left my cabin to avoid encountering the two deceivers. Fred confirmed my suspicions, informing me that Jim Simpson was a notorious womanizer, twice divorced due to infidelity, with additional charges of domestic abuse from his last wife. It made sense that Joni would be drawn to someone like him, though I held out hope she would realize the truth and leave him in time. Shortly before reaching Springfield, Joni knocked on my door. Who's there? I inquired from behind the closed door. It's me, Joni, she replied. What do you want? I asked. I want my husband back, she sobbed. Too bad, Joni, I retorted. I wanted a loyal and faithful wife who loved me, but I didn't get that, did I? Please, Gio. Mr. Duvalier, I made a mistake, she pleaded. You went far beyond a mistake, I snapped. Leave before I call security. You belong in the economy section. Please, she begged. Can't we just talk? No, I declared. Go away. I never want to see you again. As she walked away, I heard her sniffle. A part of me felt sorry for her, but I didn't really care. She brought all of this upon herself with her lies, cheating, and disrespect. I disembarked from the train and scanned the surroundings to locate Joni and Jim. I spotted them a few cars away, alighting from the train with expressions that suggested dissatisfaction. Tough luck, I silently mused. While observing, a man approached Joni and handed her a manila envelope. She opened it and broke into tears. I smirked and walked away. Driving home, I noticed Joni's absence and all her belongings, including some furniture from our early marriage, were gone. After putting away my things, I systematically removed all the pictures featuring her from the house. I wanted no reminders of the unfaithful woman. A couple of hours later, I heard a knock on the door. Peering through the window, I saw Lisa. She looked stunning in those shorts. I opened the door and invited her in. She carried a sizable dish emitting the aroma of lasagna. She strolled in as if she owned the place and placed the dish on the kitchen counter. When she turned back to me, I gave her a once-over. She was dressed in a cropped shirt that barely reached below her chest, revealing the outline of her nipples beneath the fabric. Her shorts were even shorter than I had remembered, leaving very little material between her legs. I wanted to make sure you had something delicious to eat, she mentioned. I wouldn't want you to go hungry. Thank you, Lisa, I replied. I really appreciate it. Her eyes sparkled with a smile as she spoke. Would you like to join me for dinner? I'd love to, she answered. You go freshen up. I know where everything is. I'd love to, she answered. You go freshen up. I know where everything is. After a quick wash upstairs, I returned to find the table set and Lisa had already poured us each a glass of wine. As I pulled out a chair for her, I couldn't help but admire her well-shaped thighs. She took my plate and served a generous portion of lasagna, rich with meat and oozing layers of cheese. I realized she must have put a lot of effort into preparing this. After serving herself a smaller portion, she looked at me. "This looks delicious," I commented. "Thanks," she replied. "I enjoy cooking, especially for someone I truly care about." The lasagna lived up to its appearance, and I savored every bite, even using a piece of garlic bread to clean my plate. "You must have been really hungry," she remarked. "There's no way I'm wasting such amazing food," I said. "That was the best lasagna I've ever had." She smiled as she came over to join me. "I'm pleased you enjoyed it," she said, settling onto my lap. "There's plenty more where that came from. Perhaps one day I'll even bring you dessert," she added, raising her shirt to reveal her well-shaped B-cup breasts. A familiar sensation stirred in my pants as she gave me a passionate wet kiss, her tongue exploring my mouth. "I need to head home to feed my cat, but I'll be around tomorrow. I can hardly wait," I replied. She smiled as she got up. "This is just a glimpse of what I have in mind for you," she said. "I suppose I'll have to rely on little George until your divorce is finalized." "Little George?" I inquired. "That's what I call my vibrator," she explained. "I like to imagine you making love to me while I inquired. That's what I call my vibrator," she explained. "I like to imagine you making love to me while I use it." "I understand," I said. "Well, let's hope Joni doesn't contest the divorce." We shared a lingering kiss before Lisa departed. Fortunately, Joni didn't contest the divorce. It seemed she recognized the evidence against her and chose to end the marriage. She and Jim managed to keep their jobs, but it was a close call. She signed the paperwork and called to apologize, confirming that it was a done deal. Fred informed me that the signed papers were filed, and in 30 days I would be a free man. Was I happy? Relieved to be rid of a cheating spouse, yes, but a part of me felt a void. I had devoted years to loving this woman exclusively, envisioning a retirement filled with children and grandchildren. Sadly, that dream was not meant to be. I also harbored frustration for not exacting any revenge on Jim. I had considered pursuing a claim for alienation of affection, but Fred dismissed it as a futile effort. Contemplating physical retaliation crossed my mind, yet I opted against it, mindful of the consequences and my reluctance to end up in jail. Lisa would visit me each evening, bringing homemade dishes for us to share. She diligently marked my calendar, counting down the days until the divorce would be finalized. Her playful teasing persisted, and she even gifted me a couple of DVDs featuring selfies and homemade videos, including moments with little George. Nights were often spent watching videos of Lisa using a dildo, accompanied by moans of my name and pleas for intimacy. Each video concluded with a blown kiss and promises of passionate encounters, giving me something to anticipate. Upon the completion of the 30 days, I received the paperwork confirming the divorce. Surprisingly, there was no communication from Joni, and I half expected some irrational response from her, but it never came. There was no communication from Joni, and I half expected some irrational response from her, but it never came. Oh well. On the day the divorce was finalized, Lisa didn't wait for my call. Instead, she showed up at my door. It struck me as odd, given that I had already given her a key and welcomed her any time. As I opened the door, I was in for a shocking surprise. She was standing naked on the front porch, and I took her inside, sharing a passionate kiss and caressing her velvety skin. Reciprocating with the same fervor, she quickly undressed me. Our acquaintance continued on the couch, where in an unforgettable moment, she took my hard tool in her mouth. Afterwards, she straddled me and said, "Do it, baby. I'm yours now. Who am I to complain?" That image was enough to trigger my release inside her, and her climax coincided with mine as she pressed against me with increased intensity. "This surpasses my expectations by far," she sighed. "Never cease doing this to me, George. Engage in this with me. Claim me as yours. Please, darling, I adore you immensely." "I love you too," I responded, enveloping her beneath me. We repeated this several times on the couch and eventually moved to the bedroom, where we shared intimate moments throughout the night. I never wanted to part from her. As we embraced, a profound certainty settled within me that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this woman. It seemed she felt the same way, turning to face me with a meaningful gaze. "I've always loved you, George," she expressed. "I'll never subject you to the same pain my foolish cousin did. I want to spend the rest of my life right here with you. So, does that mean you'll marry me?" I inquired. Her response was a joyous smile as she enveloped me in her arms. "Yes, baby," she confirmed. "I'll marry you and ensure you're the happiest man on earth." Following our affirmations, we shared kisses and moments of intimacy before drifting into sleep, wrapped in each other's embrace. Several days later, a call from Joni's father interrupted a tranquil moment with Lisa. We'd had just concluded an intimate encounter and were reclined on the bed, enjoying a movie and a bowl of popcorn. "George, Joni's in the hospital," he disclosed. I sat up, taken aback. "What happened?" I inquired. "That guy she's with beat her severely," he conveyed. I'd urged her to call the police, but she refused. "Will she be okay?" I pressed. "In time, but I fear for her if she continues to stay with him," he admitted. "All right, Lisa and I will head over and check on her," I assured him. "We?" he questioned. "Yes, Lisa and I affirmed. "Lisa is with you," he clarified. "Yes," I confirmed. "With you?" he clarified. "Yes," I confirmed. "I couldn't have navigated through this without her." "Okay," he acknowledged. "I understand. I'll meet you at the hospital." After concluding our phone call, I briefed Lisa on the situation, sharing the unsettling details I had learned about Jim Simpson. While both of us were angry at Joni for her actions, neither of us wished physical harm upon her. We quickly cleaned up, got dressed, and headed to the hospital. Upon speaking with the nurse, we were directed to Joni's room. Her appearance was distressing. Her face displayed bruises, one eye was swollen shut, and one arm was in a cast with an IV drip in the other. She weakly moaned as we entered the room. Although I wanted to comfort her and assure her everything would be okay, I refrained. "Gio, Mr. Duvalier," she uttered, a tear rolling down her cheek. I raised my hand to signal her to stop. "George is fine," I responded. "What happened?" "Jim wanted to borrow my car for his date, and I refused," she explained slowly. "He became enraged, started hitting me, and hurled insults. I told him the car was mine, and a significant portion of my paycheck goes towards the payments. There was no way I'd let him use it to impress someone. He didn't stop until I threatened to call 911, and that's when he fled. I don't know where he is. I had difficulty breathing, and my chest hurt, so I called 911, and they brought me here." "Did you inform the police about the incident?" Lisa inquired. "No," she admitted. "I was scared to. I thought if he went to jail, he'd come after me when he got out." I shook my head in disbelief at the situation. "Let me get this straight," I interjected. "You leave to be with the guy you cheated on me with, and now he's cheating on you. Is that correct?" She sobbed and nodded. "Yash," she said. "I really messed up, didn't I?" "Yes, you did," Lisa affirmed. "But you don't deserve this. He committed a crime, and he needs to be held accountable." "Joni," I added, "did you know he has a history of domestic violence?" "I was aware he could be a bit harsh, but not to this extent," she remarked. Lisa embraced her cousin, attempting to provide comfort. Joni noticed the diamond ring on Lisa's finger. "Are you engaged?" Joni inquired. Lisa smiled and confirmed. "Yes," she replied. "George and I are getting married." Joni burst into tears, her emotions soaking Lisa's shirt. "But you're still my cousin and I still love you, even though I think you're foolish for what you did to George." At that moment, Joni's parents entered the room. They were furious upon learning about the situation from Lisa and me. "All right," Cliff told Joni. "We'll stay here with you and move you back into the house when you get discharged. You'll stay with us until you can get back on your feet." He motioned me into the hallway. "What do you know about this Simpson guy?" he inquired. I shared what I had learned from Fred, and he nodded, taking mental notes. "And you say he works with Jomi?" "Yes," I confirmed. He continued to nod. "Okay, I'll handle Simpson," he declared. "I won't go into details with you. You don't need to know. What's the deal with you and Lisa?" "Well, she helped me get through the divorce. And now we're engaged," I explained. He smiled and nodded. "I'm not surprised," he said. "She's always had a thing for you. Congratulations. At least you'll still be part of the family." "Thanks," I responded. "Is there anything I can do to help with Simpson?" He shook his head. "No," he replied. "I've got this covered." Besides, you're going to be married soon, and the last thing Lisa needs is to have her new husband in jail. The less you know, the better. Cliff walked down the hallway, engaged in a conversation on his cell phone. I returned to Joni's room where her mother cast a glance in our direction. I'll stay with her tonight, she stated. Cliff will organize retrieving her belongings from that man's apartment. Thank you for stopping by. You're welcome, I replied, embracing her. Joni looked at me, teary-eyed. I'm so sorry, she said. For everything. Can you forgive me? After a brief pause, I responded. I believe so, I replied, aware of the two other women observing. After all, we're still going to be family. Thank you, she expressed. I had approached and bid her farewell with a hug. Get well soon, I said, gently kissing her forehead. Take good care of him, Joni instructed Lisa. Please. Lisa smiled and nodded. I intend to, she assured. We left the hospital and headed home. I had no clue about Cliff's plans regarding Jim, but I had heard anecdotes about his military background. Knowing he had connections in both high and low places, I kept an eye on local news and even checked the obituaries. Finding nothing there, a small article surfaced in the local paper a week later about a man being mugged and severely beaten outside a nearby bar. As per the account, the man, identified as Jim Simpson, was confronted by a group of assailants who broke 3 of his ribs, his jaw, a kneecap, and an arm. The story also mentions severe injuries to his testicles, which elicited a laugh from me. Cliff retrieved Joni's belongings from the apartment and relocated her to his home. Though her parents disapproved of what she had done to me, she was still their daughter, and their love for her persisted. A few months later, Lisa and I tied the knot. Since her parents had tragically passed away in a car accident a few years prior, Cliff walked her down the aisle and warmly shook my hand. Joni attended with her parents, shedding tears of joy as the preacher officially declared us husband and wife. Our honeymoon in Las Vegas was unforgettable, with Lisa expressing her affection as often as possible. Upon our return, we arranged her belongings in our new home. Lisa decided to quit her job, explaining, I have a new job now. Curious, I inquired, what's that? She responded with a mischievous smile, saying, keeping you happy, and she succeeded. However, a few months later, she initiated a conversation that every husband fears, stating, we need to talk, when I returned home from work. Anxious about her revelation, I asked, is something wrong? She revealed, well, we'll need to remodel one of the bedrooms. Perplexed, I questioned why, and she answered with a smile, because you're going to be a daddy. Overjoyed, I leaped with excitement, showering her with kisses. Are you happy? She inquired. I'm the happiest man in the world, I declared. Then take me upstairs and show me just how happy you are. Big guy, she teased. And so I did. Again and again, life, I mused, sometimes hands you lemons, but in return, you may receive something far sweeter. That's where the story ends. Write your opinion about this story in the comments. It will be interesting for us to read it. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss new, equally interesting and exciting stories. Good luck!